I want to talk to you about how to add your number to the National Do Not Call Registry. So here's an overview I want you to really pay attention to. First of all, let me define what the National Do Not Call Registry really is. So this is a database that's designed to stop unwanted sales calls from real companies that follow the law. It's actually free to register your home or cell phone number, and the registry is a list that tells registered telemarketers what numbers not to call. But it doesn't block calls, okay? It's important. It doesn't block calls. So being on the registry will not stop calls from scammers making illegal calls. And so basically, one thing I want to say here is that it's very important that you can always complain to the FTC. I'll explain that later on, okay? Now, let me first talk to you about adding your number to the registry. So you go to the donotcall.gov, the website, or you can call 1-888-382-1222. I'm going to put this number on the screen here. So the number is 1-888-382-1222. And you can call this from your phone if you want to register. It's free, okay? So if you register your number at donotcall.gov, you will get an email with a link you have to click on within 72 hours to complete your registration. The government just wants to make sure that it's you. So in terms of signing up, pretty straightforward. Now, how long does it take for sales calls to stop? Your phone number should actually show up on the registry the next day, but it can take actually up to 31 days for sales calls to stop. And to check whether your number is on the registry, go to the donotcall.gov website and to actually check, okay? And your registration will never expire, by the way. So the FTC will only remove your number from the registry if it's disconnected or, let's say, reassigned, or you just ask the FTC to remove it, okay? So now, can you add your cell phone number to the phone call registry? Of course, that's really possible. You can add all kinds of phone number, your landline, or also your cell phone. So that's really good in terms of flexibility, and you can actually you can register multiple phone numbers from one person. Okay, so if you have 5 or 10 phone numbers, you can unregister those numbers too. So when you think about actually the National Do Not Call Registry, it's important to really understand the power that the database has. Now, what the registry doesn't do, I want you to have a clear idea about that. Now, the registry will not stop all unwanted calls. The Do Not Call Registry stops unwanted sales calls. I want to insist on that, sales calls, like live calls or robocalls from real companies that follow the law. Those companies must be legit. The registry is a list that tells registered telemarketers what numbers not to call. It doesn't block calls. So being on the registry will not actually prevent you from getting calls from scammers, okay? One reason people get a lot of unwanted calls is because it's very easy and cheap for scammers to call people anywhere in the world. So to get fewer unwanted calls, you want to look into call blocking and call labeling services. And there are also different call blocking and call labeling options for cell phones, traditional landlines, and home phones that make calls over the internet, VoIP. So you will find actually a list of some call blocking and call labeling apps for cell phones at ctia.org, which is a website for the U.S. wireless communication industry. And so for company-specific information about blocking calls on landlines and phones that use the internet, you go to the FTC's call blocking resources. A pretty great database, by the way. So that's really fantastic. Now, can a company still call you with a sales pitch? Yes, unfortunately, but yes. Companies can call you if you have recently done business with them, or if you have given them written permission to call. But if you ask them not to call you, they have to stop. If they don't stop, you can actually complain. You can report their ass to the government. Okay. Be sure to write down the date you asked them to stop. Are there actually any other types of calls still allowed under FTC rules if you are on the registry? Yes, unfortunately, yes. Because once you are on the registry, the rules allow political calls, charitable calls, debt collection calls, purely informational calls, and surveys. Okay, those are not going to stop. But this calls cannot also include a sales pitch. Okay, what about robocalls? Because that's something that a lot of people care about. The thing is that if a robocall, a call that plays a recorded message, is selling something, it's illegal unless the company is trying to sell you something, has written permission directly from you to call that way. So if you haven't given the company permission and the robocall is not purely informational, like your cable company confirming a service appointment, the call is illegal and probably a scam. That's true whether your number is on the registry or not. Okay, so be careful there. One thing you have to really understand is that if you get an illegal robocall, you want to hang up right away. Don't press buttons to be taken off a call list or to talk to a live person. No, just hang up. It might lead to more unwanted calls. Instead, you want to report their ass to the FTC. Okay, so the FTC has a database when it comes to robocalls, by the way. So how do you report unwanted calls this year? Let's talk about the tactics here. What are the tactics I want you to think about? How do you report? Where do you report an unwanted call in the first place? If you actually didn't lose money, because see, the thing is, if you lost money, you have an entire different process that might actually involve the FBI among other law enforcement agencies. But if you did not lose money and you just want to report a call, you want to use the streamlined reporting form at donotcall.gov. Pretty straightforward. If you have lost money to a phone scam, or if you have information about the company or a scammer who called you, report it at reportfraudftc.gov, or just call the FBI, or you can call law enforcement. So when you report a call, you want to include your number, so the number that received the call, and that number doesn't have to be the number where you're calling from right now, right? It has to be the number that received the call in the first place. So report your number. You want to include the number that's on your caller ID. Even if you think it might be spoofed or faked, you always want to report that number, because the authorities have ways to actually track those sort of fake numbers or spoofed numbers. And you also want to include any number you are told to call back, so that the authorities can trace also where the scammers are operating from or how they are operating. And also you want to include the date and time of the call if you are able to. That's why it's always important to take note anytime you get a call from an unknown number, to always have some kind of documentary evidence, so you can so if you have to report the call later on to authorities, you have a lot of data to give the authorities. So if you are actually thinking about putting your number on the National Do Not Call Registry, the thing is that you're not going to hear back from the FTC. Okay, you might hear back from the FTC if you have been scammed, but if you just put your number on the National Do Not Call Registry, they're not going to call you back. Why? Because the FTC gets millions of reports every year, so they can't respond to each one, but your report matters. Okay, so the FTC and other law enforcement agencies analyze reports to identify and take action against the people responsible for illegal calls and scams. That's for sure. So the FTC also takes the phone numbers that you report calling you and releases them each business day to help telecommunications carriers and other industry partners that are working on call blocking and call labeling solutions. So that's kind of cool, because it really gives the authorities more power, more possibilities. Now, one thing I want to say here is that once you actually put your number on the National Do Not Call Registry, there is a penalty if a company illegally calls you. Yes, companies that illegally call numbers on the National Do Not Call Registry or place, let's say, an illegal robocall, can currently be fined up to $50,120. So that's a lot, and this is per call. $50,000 per call. So that's really, really, really huge. Okay, so that's why you want to have enough info to report the company's ass to the authorities. Now, basically, if you think a scammer faked the number that you see on your caller ID, you still need to report it. I think I've said this before, because technology has made it very easy for scammers to fake or spoof caller ID information. That's for sure. So the number you are reporting might not be the caller's real number, but sometimes the FTC and other law enforcement agencies can still trace the call based on the info that you give. So your report also helps because the FTC analyzes report data and trains to identify illegal callers based on calling patterns. So this is kind of important. And they also use additional information in your report, like any number that you're told to call back to track down scammers. So this is important. So the thing is that now the FTC is doing a lot of stuff to stop illegal calls, but it's not really going to end soon because the FTC has sued hundreds of companies and people behind unwanted calls. As a result, telemarketers who made illegal calls have paid more than $290 million in judgments, and the FTC has stopped people responsible for billions of robocalls. So this is kind of cool. The FTC also works with other law enforcement agencies and encourages industry efforts to combat robocalls and caller ID spoofing. And that's really good. And one thing for sure, if you are a business or you are working for a business, you have to understand that generally businesses and organizations who sell goods and services over the phone must download the registry and remove numbers listed on the registry from their calling list. So this is important. So it's important to really understand that when you actually register your phone number, it's not going to it doesn't matter. I think I said this before, but I want to insist on that. It doesn't matter whether you have a cell phone or a landline, okay? Basically, a cell phone are not treated differently from home phones on the do not call registry. You register a cell phone number the same way you do any other phone number. There is no difference between cell phone and home phone numbers once they are listed on the registry, okay? And basically, if somebody called and offered to put your name on the registry, you should not let them. Never do that, okay? You must do this yourself. The whole process is free. Okay, it's free to register, and you just like I said, you can register yourself for free at donotcall.gov, or you can call 1-888. I've given you this number before, but it's important: 1-888-382-1222. And from the phone you want to register. By the way, don't actually call from another phone. You want to call from the phone you want to register. And for TTY, the number is 1-866-290-4236. So if you actually register more than one number online, there is something that will happen depending upon how you actually how you did the registration. So you will get an email for each number you register online, and you want to open each email and click on the link in it within 72 hours to register each number. So every number has to be registered separately. Okay, that's what I told you. You can have 5 numbers, you can have 10 numbers. It doesn't matter, but you have to go through the process for each number, like every time. And you will be able to register up to 3 numbers at a time online. So to register more phone numbers, just go through the registration process again and again and again. And if you want to register your number by calling the toll-free number, you have to actually call each phone number you want to register, okay? So the process could be a little tedious for some people, but hey, listen, this is actually the freedom this is actually the price to quote unquote pay if you want to be left alone, really. But one thing for sure, you do have a lot of flexibility in terms of how you register phone numbers and how you track the registration process after registering, because the FTC gives you the possibility to call the same number you call to register, to call that same number to make sure that the registration has been taken into effect. Now, you actually you cannot register a business phone number or a fax number, okay? So the registry is for personal phone numbers. So business phone numbers and fax lines are not covered. And you can also remove your number from the registry, that's for sure. Let's say you changed your mind. So call the same number that I gave you a little earlier. So 1-888-382-1222. So you can actually call, but you got to call from the phone you want to remove. So your number will be off the registry the next day. And businesses and organizations have to update their telemarketing lists within 31 days. And if you basically register, because a lot of people are scared about their data with the FTC. I mean, by the way, the FTC is a government agency. This is a law enforcement agency. They're not going to sell your data. Don't really worry about that, okay? So basically, if the FTC stores your phone number, so telemarketers can remove it from their call list. If you register at donotcall.gov, they also collect your email address to confirm your registration. They store your email address securely, separate from your phone number, and never share it with telemarketers. So I want to insist on that. So the FTC has a privacy policy. This is a government agency, a federal government agency. This is not like a third party, a company, or a private company. And it's also a law enforcement agency. Okay, so it's pretty serious. So they do things in a methodical way anyway. So that's really good. The thing is that basically when you call to register, a message might say, well, your number could not be verified. So if that happens, you will need to register on the website. You need to register at donotcall.gov. And when you call to register, if a message said the number you were calling from didn't match the number you entered, you basically want to go to donotcall.gov. Sometimes people in certain communities, such as senior living centers, have phone numbers that are hidden and can be verified by the FTC's automated systems, right? If that's the case, again, go back to the donotcall.gov website. But the good thing is that if you moved and got a new phone number, you need to register that new number again anyway, okay? And so in terms of taking your old phone number off the list, when you get a new number, the system removes numbers automatically when they are disconnected and reassigned. So that's really important to think about it. And so if your phone number is disconnected but then reconnected, basically you might need to register your number again. So to verify that your number is on the registry, go to the website, donotcall.gov, and check it from there. Or you can call the same number, 1-888-382-1222. And if your area code changes or split, basically you don't have to register your number again. Your new number will be registered for you during the 90-day period where when both the old and new area codes work, okay? And if you have questions or complaints about the Do Not Call registry, you want to contact the FTC by email at crc@donotcall.gov. I'm going to put this on the screen. So the email is crc@donotcall.gov. So this is really good. So if you're thinking about the National Do Not Call Registry and actually taking your name off the list, you have to be aware of that there are some telemarketing rules that really sort of govern the way telemarketers also use data in the registry database. Okay. Now, what telemarketers can do? So telemarketers cannot call before 8 a.m. or after 9 p.m. in your local time. So just be aware of that. Telemarketers cannot be deceptive or abusive or lie about any terms of their offer. And telemarketers cannot ask you to pay with a cash-to-cash wire transfer, for example, Western Union and MoneyGram. They cannot actually ask you to pay by giving the PIN from a cash reload card, for example, MoneyPack and Vanilla Reload. And they cannot ask you to pay by asking for your bank account information to create a type of check that you never see or sign. And this is called actually a remotely created payment order. Now, what telemarketers can do really? Telemarketers must connect their call to a sales representative within 2 seconds after you answer. Telemarketers must transmit their telephone number and, if possible, their name to your caller ID service. They must tell you right away what seller or charitable organization they represent and that the call is a sales call or a charitable solicitation. They must disclose all material information about the goods or services they are offering and the terms of the sale. And they must get your permission to charge you and to use a particular account number, okay? And so this is important to think about it. Now, once you are on the list, telemarketers are required to check the list every 31 days, so they may still call until that time. Some organizations are exempt from the National Do Not Registry, the National Do Not Call Registry, the nonprofit organizations, and political campaigns. So the registry basically is not perfect, and you might get some calls by mistake, and some unscrupulous organizations ignore the list. So if you believe you are receiving calls in violation of the National Do Not Call Registry or general telemarketing laws, you can actually file a complaint. Okay, you can actually you can complain, and the National Do Not Call Registry covers intrastate telemarketing calls under the FCC's rules, and you can find information on the FCC's regulations on their website. So this is kind of cool. So here's the quota. In today's conversation, I spoke to you about how to actually take your number off the National Do Not Call Registry. I give you the overview, the tactics, the telemarketing rules, and now the quota. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.